Have you seen Sinners yet?
No, girl, I'm actually going to see it tomorrow, honey. Have you?
Oh,
Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I have seen it twice. I love it, love it, love it, love it. So I'm not gonna ruin anything for you. I don't want to talk about it specifically because I've discussed it so much on my YouTube channel. But I wanna use it as a launching point to talk about Asian Americans in the segregated South in during the time that the movie was set.
I'm girl, you already spoiling a lot because first of all, you just seen it twice, so that's already telling me that it's giving what needs to be gave, honey.
Period.
Because you be knowing this tea and you be on this tea when it be coming to the arts and shit like that, honey. And number two, you spooking us at because I didn't even know that Asian Americans was going to have anything to do with this film.
Ow! I'm not ruining it for you, but it is an
I
Asian
know you're
character.
not. Girl, you could give the whole synopsis on this motherfucker, and I'm still gonna go see her tomorrow and be hyped.
Yes, I don't want to ruin it because you need to be surprised. But there is an Asian character, a few of them. And so, but that's because in this time in Mississippi, Asians lived in Mississippi. They lived in different parts of the South, different parts of America. Asians started to come to America during like the gold rush of like the West, like during but even like they were trickling in, but it really was a boom during the gold rush. But they were already coming here in the late 1800s. Like right after slavery kind of got abolished, it opened up the door for many Asians, Indians, and Chinese people. Everybody was coming to America because America was growing, and so yeah, Asians was coming. So in 2018, Linda Brown passed away. Brown was at the center of the Brown versus Board of Education case in 1954 that helped desegregate us here in the United States. That is the case that the trans queer icon Polly Murray helped to beat, which undid the Plessy versus Ferguson case in 1896 that gave states permission to separate us. But there was a long time in between Plessy versus Ferguson and the Brown versus Board of Education. And so, in between that time, between 1896 and 1954, there was a lot of unsuccessful cases that was challenging the segregation bullshit. And the gag is, I know that black people were setting the foundation, okay, when it comes to laws and blah, 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 blah. But I think one of the reasons why um, there is like this nuance around Asian folks and the kind of and Latinx folks. And when we think about, oh, y'all are working off the backs of our labor. You know how sometimes black folks be saying y'all are benefiting from the work that we did in the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And while that is true on a certain level, it is also true that they can kind of also see it in a different way if they kind of know the history. Not saying that is not true. That's fucking true. But there's a layer, a nuance that I don't think people know. So there was lot of places in the South where when that segregation shit started, when it was like Jim Crow, black white people here, black people here, those middle ground, and I'm speaking in binary terms, but those middle ground people like Asians and Latinx people, there were places that split them differently. Like in the South, the Mexicans were put in with the black people, and the Asians was put with the white. If you go back and see in the early 1800s and the early 1900s, like the 1920s, 1910s, that early first 20 years of
So, so it was by ethnicity that they were separating these people because I know where I'm from, it was the paper bag test. They didn't give a fuck where you was from. If you was lighter than a paper bag, then you went with the white people. If you was darker than a paper bag, you went with the colored folk.
the paper bag test was more about us. That was more on some colorism shit. White was white, but people were It was about color, your shade of color. And people would go to court, and there would be court cases where they were suing to be considered white. And because we know white is really bullshit, there was some nuances to what people was considering what is actually white. Is it just about color, or is it where you particularly from? Is it because you from the Caucasus Mountains? Like you get what I'm saying? Like, is it because of that location, or is it because of actual color? Because then it gets really witchy, because there are some white people at certain times of the season, they can be darker than me. There are some white people, there's some Asian people that can be lighter than white people. There are some Latinx people that can be lighter than some white people.
And if you albino, I guess your race don't fucking matter. And we already know that there's plenty black people who could pass for white. We just seen Rashida Jones do the shit forever.
Yes, Rashida. It's a bunch of people. Even on Sinners, there is a girl who could easily pass for white. She does, and she's not. She's Filipino and black and white. She's Filipino, black and white. And so as early as the 1850s, Chinese Americans were coming over here, living and thriving, starting businesses and restaurants. And they were coming over here because of the gold rush that was happening in like San Francisco and different parts of the West. But they also played a very pivotal role in building the railroad system that we have today. And because of desegregation that just happened in 1865, a lot of white folks was like, we might want to allow these motherfuckers to come over here, because now that we don't got the black folks who want to be our slaves, we actually can get cheap labor out of these Asian motherfuckers too. So just like they were doing to the niggas, they were having them doing some of the most gross, dangerous, back-breaking work that, originally they was having black folks do, but now, ooh, let's have these Asians do it. Diabolical. Why we let these motherfuckers? And they only like 7% of the world population. The white people are only 7%. Why did we let these motherfuckers do this? We too nice. We really too nice. But anyway, it caused this big controversy. And once these things were done and these things were made, they started to treat them bad and make acts and laws to kick them out, put them in concentration camps, force them to stop from coming over here. They started making laws to, you get what I'm saying, segregate them. There were spots in the country, because this was like a state by state thing, region thing, where sometimes the Asians was separated with us and sometimes they were not. And Mississippi was one of those places where they were separated with the white people for a little bit. They were allowed to go to white people's schools until these various little cases started to pop up. And so I want to talk about those cases that were fought by Asians, because I remember even Joy Reid recently posted a video of a Southern Asian woman who grew up during this time. She's old now, and they interviewed her, and she has this beautiful Southern accent. She sounds like a regular high class white woman. She sounds like Eudora Welty. Do you know who Eudora Welty is?
I have no idea who the hell you're talking about.
Eudora Welty is this white woman, white writer. She won the Pulitzer Prize for her writing. She is from Jackson, Mississippi, and she's like, her house they done turned into a historical place. She's just a writer. She's like the Southern white woman classic writer from the early 1900s in mid she was born in 1900s, and then she started writing in the mid-century of the 1900s. Anyway, she has that classic, because there's a difference between sounding country and sounding Southern. The country can be a little bit more lower class. Southern, there's a Southern high class voice that you can be using. And in the comments of Joy Reid's video, where she had the Asian girl in her clip on the show, I was like, if you pay attention, she doesn't have a country like black accent. She has a country high class southern. She has a southern high class accent. Let's talk about Ozawa, Ozawa versus the United States. The Naturalization Act of 1790 set up the first set of rules of United States citizenship. The law limits citizenship to any alien being a free white person. So that's what it was described as, who had lived within the limits and under the jurisdiction of United States for the term of 2 years and could prove they were a person of good character. So Tako Ozawa was a Japanese immigrant who challenged the definition of free white person after applying for citizenship in Hawaii in 1914. He was denied on the grounds that he was ineligible because he was Japanese. The Supreme Court ruled in the case in 2022, not 2022, 1922. The Justice George Sutherland delivered the opinion, and he argued against defining who was white by just the mere color of their skin because the Japanese motherfucker was like, nigga, if we talk about light color, white skin, I got that. So what you talking about? I got that. I got whiter skin, porcelain skin than y'all motherfuckers. And he was
Mhm.
like, but the white southern judge said, no, 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 no. We cannot define it just by the color of skin, as skin tone varies too greatly even among persons of the same race. Thus, Sutherland wrote that to adopt the color test alone would result in a confusion overlapping races and gradual merging of one into the other. So he was very clear, like, nah, because some of these niggas is real light too, and we get to merging. No, we cannot base it on just color without any practical line of separation. He argues that people considered white should be confined to people from the Caucasian race. Now, pop that. Now, hold that thought. Hold that thought. Because we know race is bullshit, right? We know race is bullshit. So, this is Ozawa versus United States. The next case that happened in 1923, after that 1922 ruling, is United States versus Sing Thind. I don't know how to pronounce that. You know, it's a it's a Indian Indian name. In 1923, Justice Sutherland, the same justice that gave that ruling a year before, contradicted his own opinion in that old case in this new case against Singh. Thong Singh, a Sikh immigrant from India, but he is from the northern part of India that's in the Caucasus Mountains. Nigga, I'm from the Caucasus Mountains, motherfucker. I'm literally from the Caucasus Mountains.
You don't get more cock
You
or
don't get more
in
cock
than
or
me,
in.
bitch.
He said, "You don't get more. You motherfuckers from Great Britain and Ireland, bitch. I'm more caucus than you." He said, "You don't get more caucus than me." He said he applied and was granted citizenship in the state of Oregon. However, a naturalization examiner appealed petty ass shady motherfucker. Now, clock this T. Oregon was supposed to be the white utopia. Once it was literally no, this was supposed to be where only white people could live here. We was create once we expanded west, we was gonna make this state, well, this area, this region only white. Now that they done abolished slavery, we about to make this just white. So that's why he was being petty in Oregon. So that naturalization examiner appealed to the Oregon District Court in the decision and to favor his application for it to be thrown out and make him not be white. And so in the Supreme Court case, when it went to the Supreme Court, Thing argued that he was a high caste You gotta count the class in the situation, baby. I'm a high caste, baby. I'm not these low boys.
You got me confused with them poor Indians. You got me confused with the Indian niggas. Hold
Period.
The
Period.
Indo
Period.
niggas. I ain't one of them. Hold
Right. He says, I am a high caste Hindu stock. Hindu stock, born in Punjab, one of the extreme northern districts in the Caucasus Mountains, baby. Specifically, scientific authority that I am Caucasus and of Aryan race, baby. The court ruled against Thung when the Justice Southerners saying that the phrase free white person should only be considered synonymous with the word Caucasian only as the word is properly understood. The courts essentially ruled that in addition to being Caucasian descent, an individual has to have white skin tone, which Thung did not to gain citizenship. So this court case says, yeah, I know we said last time that skin tone can't just be you have to be from the Caucasus, but we also want you to know that it has to be from the Caucasus. No, but you need to have the skin tone too.
Yeah, we're going, you know how we're going to nip this in the butt? We're going to further define race, even after we made race a whole thing and enslaved a whole group of people for hundreds of years. We're going to abolish that whole thing, but we still going to define race in real time. And it's not just about where you're from, but it is also about how you look.
Period.
Yeah. So long story short, it's bullshit because they still to this day in 2025 as we're recording this, honey, they still attempting to define race.
In ways that you can't because nobody is going to fit every single box that you check. So, one last case that I wanted to talk about was Gong Lum versus Rice. So, in this case, in Rosedale, Mississippi. So, while I remember, these cases are happening in the early 1900s. And so, before this was happening, before like after slavery, like but after 1865 to 1920, so this is like what, how many years span? How many years is that? 80, 70, 80? That's like 1965 is like 30, 40. And then you got this is 20.
About 50. About
Yeah,
50.
about 50. So this 50, between these years, Asian people were allowed to go to schools with white people. This is why these cases was coming up because there was white people was like, now listen here.
China man, it said no colors. And the last time I checked, you was yellow.
Honey, it's giving yellow bone, baby. It's giving we don't feel this shit. So we got to take it to court. And so there was another case that was specific about schooling called Gong Lum versus Rice. And so in this case, in Rosedale, Mississippi, a man by the name of Gong Lum was the parent of Martha Loom, and Martha's family was Chinese descent. However, she was a native born citizen of the United States. So she was born here, the child. Martha was 9 years old at the time and attended a school of all white public. It was an all white public institution in Rosedale. The superintendent, acting on an order issued by the school board, notified Martha that she would not be allowed to return to the school because she is not a member of the white or Caucasian race. And so the issue is, um, did the Mississippi school district violate the 14th Amendment right to of equal protection clause by denying a Chinese American student from attending their school based on race? And the outcome was the Supreme Court affirmed that the decision of the Supreme Court of Mississippi, they affirmed it and held that the Mississippi School Board did not deny equal protection under the law to a student of Chinese descent because it didn't allow them to attend the school because of color. So these cases, I just wanted to share these cases and how bullshit they are. Um, because in the movie, the Asian lady plays a big part is a plot turner in the movie. And so I wanted to talk about this because there's a lot of conversations about Asians and black and our relationships with immigration and our relationship with civil rights and our relationship during this time of the United States. So I wanted to share that. I thought it was a beautiful just some beautiful cases that people may not know that was happening. Asian people were privileged and lived and going to school with white people for a long time, for about 50 years before they ruled that they weren't segregated. And then once they were segregated with us, then we started to be in community with them. Even the person who Malcolm X died in their arms was an Asian woman. Like people don't know that either. When he got killed, the person who was holding him while he died was an Asian woman. And so I wanted to talk about that, but I also want to flip it to another thing that is also current because we United States is currently going through a situation with China, right? With the tariffs, and there's this battle that is happening with China. So I wanted to talk about a beautiful story. I don't know if it's beautiful, but I wanted to talk about a story that includes one of these Chinese Americans. Well, not she's not Chinese American. One of these Chinese people who who was privileged by this lack of segregation. Like when she benefited, she went to school in these southern colleges and northeastern colleges with white people when black people could not, and she went on to impact the world so drastically. So let's talk about Madam Chiang Kai-shek. Have you ever heard of her?
No, I've never heard of the madam. I'm still processing the information you gave us previously.
All right, so here goes some more. So she was like the first lady of China.
She was that girl.
She was that girl. She was the first lady of China. She was born into money. So let's start there. She was born into a coin. It wasn't just I married somebody and I had coin. No, I my daddy had coin, my mama had coin, and I was that girl before anything. I was born into a dollar. Silver spoon.
I know how the Asian girls do. I told you I've dated a couple of Asians.
So she was born in the late 1800s. She was like a pivotal figure in the 20th century China. She was educated because her parents had coins and we had a good education system at the time. Unfortunately, we don't now. Um, we had such a good education system at the time that people from other countries were sending their children to the United States to our colleges. So she, Miss Madam, I'm gonna call her Mei-ling because her birth name is Mei-ling, but it's easier to pronounce than the other one. Mei-ling, Mei-ling was sent in the 1907 to the United States in Georgia to go to college when she was 15. So very, very young in her teenage years. So she is being raised in white woman culture in education. So she's learning, she's just learning and learning English and da da da. So much so, and she stays here until she is till she's an adult and she her early adulthood, and she's so it's so crazy that she has a white woman's accent. She tells her homegirls in some of her writing, she was like, the only thing Oriental about me is my face. This is something that she was writing to her other college homegirls, white college homegirls, because black girls couldn't go to the college. And you see pictures of her in, like when you see their, their class pictures where they're all standing in the group shot, she's the only Asian bitch there. And look clearly Asian, but the rest of them is white. So in 1927, she married a general in the Chinese army because she ended up going back to China with her parents because she only came here to go to school. So once she graduated, she came back to China with her parents. And so she coming back. But when she went back there, she was like, yo, I'm brilliant. Like in regards to my intelligence and what I need to do. And y'all got me trying to be served tea. and be a wife and be nothing, just be a homemaker for my husband? She was like, no. She was on her feminine shit. Bitch, I need to be out of this fucking house. She was on her Betty Friedan.
On mei-ling, bitch.
She said, honey, I'm on my Betty Friedan. I'm not gonna sit in this fucking house doing nothing. I got a brain. So her sister plotted, not maliciously plotted, but they introduced her to the general of the army, the national. It's called it's the nationalist government. It's the more progressive non-communist government. Now China is under the communist government, but this is when the national non-communist was in power, and she was like, yo, I really like him. And he was like, yo, I really like her. I feel you. So they fell in love. Now, he was a slut. So he used to go to brothels and catch venereal diseases. So much so that he lost his ability to have kids. So she never had kids because he had fried his nutsack and couldn't have no kids.
Oh, baby, he got some babies somewhere, just not by mei-ling.
Period. So she became his English translator because she could speak English and she could talk to America just like them because she was born in China, but she went to school in
Born
the
and
South.
bred white woman, honey,
Right.
to be a scholar.
So, because of who she was and her connection to the culture in China and the West, she used her sophistication and her charm and her articulate voice to make effective, like diplomatic inroads between China and American politics. She initiated the New Life movement, promoting traditional Chinese values. She did so many things. Like during there was a Japanese and Chinese war at the time, and she was like holding them off, like literally with her husband, doing what they need to do to stop them from taking over that part of China. So much so that she came all the way over to the United States, and she is the very first woman to speak in front of Congress. Like the president at the time of her leadership in the United States, he allowed her to come to Congress in front of the whole Congress and give a speech asking for United States money for assistance to fight against Japan.
Is a personal triumph. The first private citizen of any country to address the House of Representatives in Washington, Madame Chiang receives a tremendous ovation.
First of all, I want to assure you that the American people have every right to be proud of their fighting men in so many parts of the world. We in China, like you, want a better world, not for ourselves alone, but for all mankind, and we must have it. It now remains for you, the present representatives of the American people, to point the way to win the war, to help construct a world in which all peoples may henceforth live in harmony and peace.
And convinced them. They gave her billions of dollars and it worked. This is the first time that a woman had ever done that. And she was so powerful that at the time she was considered the most powerful woman in the world because of her pull politically. And because of what was going on with Germany and them being doing too much, it all the stars aligned and they helped her to keep China in power. But eventually, it just didn't work out. She ended up having an affair with a presidential candidate
In what country?
in the United States.
A white man.
Of course.
I knew it. I knew it.
He had came to visit China and baby, they creeped off and I think they fucked. This is allegedly, but this is what the people were talking about. They creeped off because they shouldn't have creeped off and did nothing.
But now he got venereal diseases too.
I don't know, but they end up creeping off, and they had a love affair to where they were writing each other and messing around with each other. And she was cool with it because nigga, my husband been
He done
sleeping
fucked all of
around
China, honey. He done fucked everything moving.
in China, baby. Yes. And so she was like, honey, I could get my swerve on. And plus, this helps. And he was really slated to become the new president. Like he was really good. They thought that he was gonna win. But because of what you call his New Deal, Franklin, I think it's Franklin L. Roosevelt, whoever did the New Deal, because of what was going on.
It was Roosevelt's New Deal.
Yeah, so because of that New Deal and how he was working toward the working class, this is also when the Democrat and Republican shit was flipping. You remember, the Democrats used to be the Republicans and the Republicans used to be the Democrats. This is the moment when it was flipping to now Democrats is for the black people and and the Republicans are for the white people. And so she had got in cahoots with one of the Republicans that was switching now. And she thought that it was gonna be him, but no, he was going with this dude. But the voters did not go with him, so he fucking lost. And so that affected her marriage, that affected her relationship with her husband, but they didn't leave each other. They stayed together. She went back. They end up losing, but while she was doing all of this stuff, they end up losing ground with the Communist Party of China. And so, because they lost ground and they didn't have the support of America no more, they just lost. So now they got exiled to Taiwan. So she is literally the first lady of Taiwan for the rest of him and her life in the hopes that they would get stronger and stronger and stronger to take over China again, but they never did. So the Communist Party in China took over and bam, now we have the Communist Party in China taking over the current state of China. So this is a powerful woman who was who got to the peak of power based on her privilege, based on her connection to being not segregated and being able to go to white people's schools. And I just thought it was an amazing story. She is an icon in women's history. And, I wanted to share that story with the audience. What are your thoughts?
Honey, shout out to Ling. Ling, honey. Ling was linking that venereal disease. Plus, honey. Woo! So many stories in this one story. Number one, honey. Ling fucks it all up for the white dick, honey. She fucks it all up for the white man, honey. She said pink meat, honey. Jesus Christ, honey. Pussy was already fried, dyed, and laid to the side, and she still let that.
Well, it really wasn't the scandal was a part of it, but what it was is Franklin Roosevelt died. So that was her homeboy because she was cool with Eleanor Roosevelt too, because Eleanor was that strong feminist lesbian for real. She was able to talk to them and finesse them. When he died, Truman was like, "Bitch, who this fucking Asian ass bitch? We ain't got nothing to do with this shit." And honey, he
Well,
pulled it.
her boy didn't come through neither. So apparently he was hooked on that fried died lazy to the side pussy because he was caught up. He was caught up with her. He too busy seeing what's going on in the fucking China. Honey, he ain't worried about what's going on in the fucking United States. It's so many this should become a fairy tale because there's so many lessons rolled up into one. And we also get to learn why our Asian brothers and sisters, well, particularly the Chinese and Japanese, why they tend to feel so white adjacent and so much better than people of color, even people of color in their own races. Um, it's so much going on. I don't know what to think, Diamond, honey.
I
Rest
just wanted to share it, and I want you to think about it while you watch the Spinners. That's not the Spinners, the Sinners tomorrow when you go see it. And I want you to go. look her up and find out other little tidbits. This is what history is about. Going and find out people who did shit that you might not have thought that they did, and they did it.
I
So,
got,
madam,
I gotta go see what the madam was giving, and she had a nerve to be the madam. Oh,
that's
oh,
yeah.
her husband wasn't the only one slinging. She was slinging that puss. That white man wasn't the first one that got that puss. I'm telling you. The madam was doing her thing. The madam was probably slinging that puss and had got addicted to pink meat, honey, when she was over here for school, honey.
Period.
And it don't take much to get pink meat, honey. White women think that they so much better than women of color, but they learn very quickly and they learn all the time.
Right. She in these circles and it's only her. She's the exotic one, baby. You know, them white people, them white boys was wearing it out in Massachusetts in that college. And Massachusetts was a little bit more progressive at the time, baby. They was trying it.
Honey, the tea parties was tea, and honey, they just didn't know the tea was Oriental.
Period. So make sure y'all look up Madam Chiang Kai Shak, which is spelled ChiangKaishek, Madam. So check it out. She is the first lady of Taiwan now, but at the time she was the first lady of China. And yeah, that's what I wanted to share with y'all because Sinners inspired me to go down a deep rabbit hole of, Asian history and their Asian American history and some of the cases that they were involved in. And I ran across this amazing feminist icon. I consider her a feminist icon. And yeah, so make sure you look it up and let us know what you think. Hashtag Marsha's Plate.
That's hashtag MARSHASPLATE. And honey, see what happens when you turn your back on your people?
Period. The best way to support is to engage with the content. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Another way to support, if you got a couple of dollars, become a patron.